I signed a contract that gave me a credit card with no limits. No credit checks, no bureaucracy, no questions. Just a signature. What I didn't know was that this contract wasn't with a normal bank, and when I discovered the truth, it was already too late. My name is Raphael, and for 3 years, I lived like a king. I bought cars, apartments, traveled to places most people only see in pictures, all without paying a single cent in interest. It seemed like the perfect deal, but there's a reason a card like that doesn't exist in any traditional bank. There's a reason only specific people receive the invitation, and today I'm going to tell you this story. Because if you think this is just another urban legend, I can guarantee it's not. It all started in 2019. I had just lost my job at a tech company in Sao Paulo. It wasn't a firing for misconduct, just one of those frustrating layoffs. I had bills to pay, a financed car, overdue rent. My credit limit was maxed out, and I couldn't even apply for a new card because my name was already flagged for debt. That's when a friend of mine, Marcelo, asked me to grab coffee. He had always been a bit mysterious, worked with investments, but never said exactly what he did. We had known each other since college, so I trusted him. We sat at a cafe in Itaim Bibi, and he got straight to the point. "Rafa, I know you're going through a tough time. I know someone who can help you." I laughed. I thought he was going to offer me a job or a referral, but no. "There's a credit card some people use. It's not a regular card. No limit, no interest. You can use it for anything." I looked at him like, "You've got to be kidding me." But he was serious. "How can it have no limit? That doesn't exist, Marcelo." He gave a strange smile and said, "It does, but there's a price, and it's not money." That gave me chills, but I was desperate, and when you're desperate, you listen to things you'd normally ignore. Marcelo took me to a commercial building on Avenida Paulista, one of those old buildings with a metal gate elevator and a musty smell. We went up to the 10th floor and entered a room that looked like a law office from the 1980s. Peeling beige wallpaper, a dark wooden desk, cracked leather chairs. Behind the desk sat a man in his mid-50s wearing an impeccable black suit, gray hair slicked back. He didn't stand up to greet me, just pointed to the chair in front of him. "Raphael, correct?" he said without smiling. "Correct." "My name is Dr. Augusto. Marcelo told me about you. He says you're trustworthy." I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. He opened a drawer and placed a black card on the table. There was no bank name, no Visa or MasterCard logo, just a number embossed in gold and a strange symbol I had never seen before, like a distorted six-pointed star. "This card has no credit limit. You can buy whatever you want, whenever you want. No bill, no charges, no interest." I looked at Marcelo, who was leaning against the wall with his arms crossed, watching everything in silence. "So what's the catch?" I asked. Dr. Augusto smiled for the first time, a cold smile. "It's not a catch, it's a contract. You sign, and in exchange for unlimited use of this card, you agree to give up something." "Give up what?"
Your autonomy in certain decisions. Small things. Nothing that will drastically affect your life, at least not at first. But when we ask for something, you will do it. No questions. I laughed, but it was a nervous laugh. This sounds like something out of a movie. It does, but it isn't. This card is funded by a group of international investors. They're interested in specific people, people who may be useful in the future. You have a background in IT, you've worked for large companies, you have contacts. You're exactly the kind of profile they look for. And if I refuse to do what you ask? Dr. Augusto tilted his head slightly. Then the contract is canceled, and everything you purchased with the card becomes real debt, with market interest rates, high ones. I stayed silent. My heart was pounding. Part of me wanted to run out of there, but another part, the part tired of struggling, of overdue bills, of not even being able to afford a decent lunch, that part wanted to sign. "How long does the contract last?" I asked. 5 years. After that, you're free, and you keep everything you bought. 5 years. It sounded like forever, but also manageable. And what have you asked other people to do? Dr. Augusto leaned back in his chair. Introductions, information, small corporate favors. Nothing illegal, nothing that will stain your reputation. I looked at Marcelo again. He nodded, as if to say, "You can trust this." So I signed. The first 6 months were surreal. I used the card to pay off all my debts. I bought a new car, an Audi A5, rented a better apartment in Villa Olympia, started traveling, Barcelona, New York, Dubai. I used the card anywhere, and it just worked. No questions, no blocks, no limits. People around me started asking how I had turned my life around so quickly. I made up excuses, said I had landed an amazing job, that some investments had paid off. Nobody suspected a thing. During that time, Dr. Augusto never contacted me. Not once. I almost forgot I had signed that contract. I started to think I had just gotten lucky, that maybe they had forgotten about me. But in the 7th month, I got a call. Unknown number. I answered. "Raphael? Dr. Augusto, we need a favor." My stomach dropped. "What kind of favor?" "Simple. You have a former colleague who works at Petrodata, right? Julio Mendez." It was true. Julio and I had worked together years before. "I do. We need you to have lunch with him and bring one of our people along. That's all." "For what?"
That's not your concern. You just make the introduction. Say he's an investor. We'll handle the rest. I was silent for a few seconds. "And if I don't want to?" "You know what happens." I hung up and stared at the wall of my new apartment. The apartment I had paid for with their card. The car downstairs in the garage, the clothes in the closet, all bought with that black piece of plastic. I scheduled the lunch. The lunch was at a Japanese restaurant in Piñeros. Julio arrived on time, as always. We talked about old times, laughed about silly stories. Then I introduced the investor. The guy was young, early 30s, gray suit, glasses, looked like a normal executive. He and Julio talked about technology, the market, future projects, very polite, very professional. But I noticed something strange. At one point, the guy asked very specific questions about Petrodata's internal systems, questions only someone on the inside should know. And Julio, unsuspecting, answered everything. When the lunch ended, I said goodbye and left with a heavy weight on my chest. I knew I had been used, that Julio had been used, and that it wasn't just an introduction. 2 weeks later, Petrodata suffered a cyber attack. Internal data leaked, confidential contracts, financial information. Nobody ever figured out how the hackers got access. But I knew. I called Dr. Augusto. "You used information Julio gave at that lunch, didn't you?" He's silent for a second. "Raphael, you did what was asked. You honored the contract. That's all that matters." "This is wrong. I helped you invade a company." "You helped make an introduction. What happened afterward has nothing to do with you." But it did, and I knew it. After that first favor, the requests started coming more often. At first, small things. Introduce someone, get a phone number, attend social events with certain people. But over time, the favors got heavier. They asked me to hack a friend's computer and copy files. I refused at first, but Dr. Augusto reminded me of the contract, and I did it. They asked me to lie in meetings, to spread false information, to manipulate conversations. I became a tool, a pawn. And every time I thought about stopping, I looked around at everything I had gained, and I couldn't let go. But the worst was still to come. If this story made you think, subscribe to the channel.